I find this to be a fascinating conversation, an understandable one and a frustrating one all at once. And I think we'd really love to involve a lot of you in this. I think there are a lot of perspectives here that to me are all sort of fair, but I find it also to be there's a lot of different perspectives. It's a lot of variance here. So 888-957-9570. If there's anything you want to say with regard to this Kyle Shanahan car wreck and how it has been delivered to the public. The first thing I want to say, and quite frankly, in some ways, the only thing I want to say is, Coach, I hope you're okay. I hope you and your family are okay. And I know that he's alive and he's at practice the last 2 days, and that makes everybody go, oh, cool, he's okay. Well, he had 40 stitches in his face. He almost lost an eye. He's got sunglasses on round the clock. He is absolutely still dealing with concussion symptoms. His wrist is broken. And what no one has talked about is the mental side of something like that. I have got to believe that that shakes a family to its absolute core. And to act like 13 days later, that's just gone. Let me share with you something that probably shouldn't even be in this conversation, because I'm already uncomfortable with the fact that here at work, there's been a lot of, hey, you were in a car accident recently, because my God, I do not want my accident to be compared to Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan's was really, really serious. And I was lucky nobody even had a mark on them in the car accident that I was in.
Yep.
But let me tell you something. A month later, and I was not at fault at all in my accident, but I am driving differently. I am totally tentative.
Oh, I bet.
It is scary.
It's super, super jarring. And I think I've been in one accident, and I was driving on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard in San Anselmo, and I saw somebody who I knew next to me. And so I looked, and then you start waving and running material, and I turned back around, whammy!
Wham.
And I just whammed into the back of somebody. It was completely my fault, no injuries. But to your point, it took some time before you could, let that go and, get back to, and I'm not a fast driver or reckless driver, but it definitely stays with you for a long time. It stays
with you. I was still I was kind of laid down in bed at night, and the visuals are still flying around in my head for at least a week or so. It just, getting into a car feels different. Now, if you're in an experience like that and you have major injuries, you're a dad. Forget the wide nine for a damn second. You're a dad, you're a husband, and something like that happens, hold on a second. Life flashes before your eyes. And so that's my first thought. I really hope that Kyle and his family are navigating this. I hope mental health is okay. I hope that he gets himself back to full strength. And whenever that is when that is. The next thought is, it really, really bugs me in 2026 that no matter what it is that happens in life, it's no different than when there's a school shooting and we wait 4 minutes before we start arguing with each other over whose fault it is and how it should be talked about and whether thoughts and prayers is kind or sarcastic. And this happened on a much lower scale here, where Kyle Shanahan was in a life-threatening accident. And within 4 minutes, social media is screaming at each other over whether or not it's okay that this happened 11 days ago, and certain beat writers knew tiny little bits and pieces, and damn it, they didn't tell everybody because they have an obligation to tell everybody.
Yeah, that part of it I'm not getting. I don't get that, but the thing that strikes me, there's so much about this that is striking me as odd. And yes, the other driver, thankfully, I guess you were telling me she.
I think it's a she.
Okay, whoever that individual is apparently was not badly injured or injured at all. And the injuries that Kyle sustained are so severe, I have a million questions. And I'm looking at the location the alleged location of the accident, which is about a block away from the campus, Stanford University.
Okay.
And looking at this intersection and just doing a Googleage, I believe the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. And when you have injuries of this severity, it seems to me that neither car was going 25 miles an hour. I don't know how fast you have to go to have a crash to where you have this level of injury. And I'm wondering about the 11-day delay. How did this happen? And 11 days went by to where it didn't get revealed in any way, shape, or form. And I know that it's because it's the off season. And so it's not like Kyle had to go to work the next day and he didn't show up at practice and whatnot. But I just have a lot of questions about how this happened, what the speed was, and ultimately it's none of my business, and I get that. But when you have something like this happen and 11 days go by, and then was it like Friday or Saturday? Saturday, I think, when the news got released that, oh, by the way, Kyle had this accident and, 40 stitches in the face, broken nose, multiple broken ribs, and he has a concussion that's going to keep him out of practice. But, the vets report on Monday. See you there. It felt to me like, and again, maybe this is my spidey sense, but it seems like there's more to this story than we're being told. And I know that immediately they're like, alcohol and drugs were not a part of either of the drivers. And I was just looking at the story and I don't think you heard it, but I played the 911 recording, which there's not much to it. It's basically the recording and then the officer saying, yes, I'll respond. The accident happened at like 6:15 in the evening.
Okay.
So it wasn't one of these classic, like 2:28 in the morning, right. Somebody's coming from the bar. So I just am curious. And again, I don't deserve to know. None of us do, but an 11-day gap and an accident of this severity in a place where I think it's 25 miles an hour. I just have questions.
But 25 miles an hour and people obviously go maybe 30 or whatever. I'm not offended by that. If you have, and I have no idea, I know nothing about this accident, but my accident was in a 25 mile an hour zone and I barely hit the brake and I plowed, like these two cars ended up off the road and totaled. 25 miles an hour.
But were you actually going 25 or I thought you were at the stoplight and then you just went to go?
No. I had a clear lane and someone pulled right in front of me and I barely even had a chance to get my foot to the brake and plow. And I mean, if you looked at the two cars, you would not be like, oh, everybody's just going, he was going 25 and she was probably going about 10. Like she just pulled right in front of me. Right? Yeah, she's turning.
Yep.
And so like the whole thing, you can have significant impact at that speed. So I have no idea. But here's a question I'd love to ask you. And again, David Lombardi will join us in 15 minutes. This won't all be about Kyle. We want to talk about some football as well with what we're all seeing down there. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. I have no idea how this information ends up with Tim Kawakami, Matt Barrows, Matt Mayoko, Jennifer Lee Chan. I have no idea how this ends up getting to them. The one who's been the most outspoken on it in a public forum has been Tim Kawakami. He states that, for example, he knew on maybe Thursday that when they arrived at camp on Saturday, Kyle would not be the one handling head coaching press conference duties. And did he know that there was a car accident? Let me ask you something. If you were a quote-unquote 49ers journalist, let's say you come into this information. Last Wednesday, there was a car accident, and Kyle got hurt. And camp is opening this weekend, and at least at the beginning, it's going to be a little bit different. But hey, 49er beat reporter, this is a sensitive thing for the family. There's a lot going on. Kyle's kids are pretty freaked the heck out, and Kyle's roughed up a little bit. And the family is asking that right now we don't get into this yet until we have a better sense of kind of how we're going to handle all this. So you have some information, but the family is asking that this be off the record right now. What do you do?
Depends on two things. One, how do you roll as a journalist? Tim Kawakami has got to be 40 years, 35. Sorry, Tim, if I'm overestimating your age. I think you're my age, so it might only be 30, 35, but he has been an above board, not a burn it down kind of journalist. So if you're one of those people, and there are some in this market who, I want the scoop, and I don't give a bleep if I burn my sources on this. I'm going with it. He's not that guy. And then the second piece is for me anyway, how pressing is this to the core of what we're all doing as 49er fans and people who are going to really learn about the Niners, and we're all in on the Niners, because if Kyle Shanahan gets in an accident and he can't coach a game on Sunday, well, that becomes an immediate story, but this is the off season. So for me, there's no major urgency, and I would imagine that when Tim Kawakami and others found out about it, I would bet that the 49ers did exactly what you said, which is, hey, it's obviously going to come out very soon when he can't coach at practice, but in the meantime, we're hoping that you'd be sensitive to the family and this and that. And it reminds me a little bit of the Andrew Wiggins situation, where
that was where my head went to.
People probably at the time knew what was going on, and the Warriors and the Wiggins family or whomever said, hey, even if you know why he's not here, we'd appreciate it because, it's a family thing, and, he's a private guy. And so you as a journalist have that choice to make.
Yep. It's fascinating to me what we have all decided we get to know. That's my response to this. It's just fascinating to me. And there is a whole journalism thing in here, right? There's ethics and, you know what I mean? How do you handle information that you know? And if you have the info and you hold on to it, you get painted as like the old boy network where everybody used to go to a bar late at night, right? And they'll have drinks together and you let the reporters know how you'd like the stories to be written. Look, I get that side of it. I really do. If we're talking about something that is either nefarious in nature or directly affecting the sport in that moment. I love what you just said. This is the off season. If there were a game on Sunday and Kyle was potentially going to miss that game, now we have something that is relevant to a 49er football game. And if you're a 49er beat reporter, I would imagine that that's the kind of information you might be in a safe place to start reporting. But on, as it turns out, I guess now it was 13 days ago. So on July 14th, camp is not open. There is not a game that month or next month for that matter. And somebody is in an horrific car accident. I don't understand all of these people who believe that they deserve to know that. I know that you want to know. We all want to know. I love that you brought up the Wiggins thing. It's the first thing that popped into my head. So many people on this station and listeners to this station. Oh, what is going on? Guess what? You don't get to know. You don't get to know because it's private. And it is not relevant to anything that matters to you right now. Just because you want to know, and a journalist might know 10% of the story, I would argue, A, you don't get to know, number one. And number two, that journalist is really riding the line of being irresponsible if they start reporting a bunch of crap when they don't have all of the details.
And that's where this, I think, lies for me.
Absolutely. It still does at this hour.
And this is why, for me, it is really kind of fascinating because it did happen 13 days ago now. And still, there's the 911 call that now the New York Post has been able to get, but it's not a 911 call that Kyle Shanahan made. It's an automated call that goes to the officer who then responds to the intersection. That's all there is. Huh. So, who was the other party involved in the crash? And, what happened to the vehicle? Are there pictures of the vehicles in the accident scene? Were there any witnesses to the crash? And for me, there are so many questions that, again, we don't automatically get to have the answers. But when you hear the story, when you see it, and you think about all of the injuries he had with 3 broken ribs and a broken nose and 40 stitches in the face and almost lost the eye, this had to be a pretty horrific accident. Yep. And so I don't know, was he wearing a seatbelt? Did the airbag deploy? And maybe it's the traffic nerd in me, but I'm just fascinated. And again, I'm not going to like go down to Palo Alto and knock on the door and try to get into the archives and find out. But I'm just really amazed that in the 2 weeks since this has happened, there are really no additional details, no eyewitnesses who've come forward. Like, this happened at 6:15. Like,
I share that. I share that with you.
Palo Alto guy who just happened to be chilling, walking his dog, and you see the accident. Like, nothing has really come out from anybody.
No. And so, yeah, I can share my surprise with you on that. And I know that you have these questions, and these are fair questions. My opinion on what I'm saying right now will change if there was a crime committed. I have no reason to think that there was, but maybe there was. Was somebody going 80? Now we have a different conversation.
Right.
Now we have a different conversation.
Or if somebody was, in fact, inebriated and, police have, did they do toxicology on Kyle Shanahan and or the other person? And if they didn't, why didn't they? And if they did, and in fact, they reported right away that, drugs and alcohol were not a part of this.
Not a part of it. And listen, I'm like everybody else. I'm not getting on anybody for having their curiosity. We're all human beings. We have curiosity. We can have questions about how did this go the way that it went. And maybe those questions will be answered in time. And just like Andrew Wiggins, maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. But this one's interesting to me because, by the way, here's another good example. Let's talk about Wiggins for a second. How many times has someone who's in the reporter world kind of done a wink on this show or in any other conversations you've had to where you can tell they know what's going on with Wiggins? I can give you the names. Dude, Kendra Andrews came on this show and she was like, yeah, dude, it's not that. It's not what you're all thinking. Am I now?
There was the salacious rumor about his wife or his baby mama or girlfriend, whatever, who was, maybe his kid's not their kid and all the rest of it.
Should you or I have grilled Kendra? Hey, Kendra, you've clearly got information about a celebrity who plays sports in the Bay Area. You have an obligation right now on this radio show to tell the whole world what the hell's going on with Drew. I just don't get it. I don't understand why a man who I think the majority of this area really, really respects, has done wonderful things here in the Bay Area, gets in a horrible car accident, and for many of you, the first or second thought within the first few minutes is, why didn't we know about this earlier? Can we stop and just be a human for a second?
Well, it's funny you say that because I have that exact same question, but it's not in a demanding way. It's almost like, how did we not hear about this earlier?
And I think that's fair, but there are a lot of people who are pissed and they're coming down all of the beat writers' roads. I was texting with Barrows last night. He's going to come on. He's going to come on the show this week. And part of the reason I joked with him, I said, you need to come on the show. You need to explain to everybody.
That's right. When did you know?
Where the hell you've been for the last 13 weeks? He joked. He goes, as it turns out, I knew before the accident even happened.
That's funny.
And I've been holding it since June.
Yeah. That's funny. It's not funny because it's a serious accident, but that's a funny retort.
Right. I don't know, man. So if you're curious, this is my opinion. That's a safe space. If you're mad, what the hell is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Yeah,
You're going to turn this accident into a journalistic integrity story? And give me a break, Mike Florio, waving your finger at everybody for not talking about this when your co-host is his best friend getting pictures from the accident scene.
Right.
And you're going to wave your finger at everyone else for not telling?
You're talking about Chris Sims, who was roommates with Kyle Shanahan at Texas, who allegedly got a text from Kyle Shanahan's wife saying, oh, my God, there's been an accident.
It's not really alleged. He's shared the story himself.
Right. I didn't know if it was, Mandy who sent him the pictures, whatever,
That's
Mandy Shanahan, and, pictures of Kyle, like horrific pictures of what Kyle looked like after the accident. So would he not have told Mike Florio for 11 days about the information that he received?
Or did Mike Florio, maybe Mike Florio should have gotten mad at his co-host, who opted to act as a best friend rather than a journalist.
Maybe Mike Florio should have broken the story then, as opposed to getting mad at people for not breaking the story.